The Floor Academy podcast is sponsored by Trelama, the trade labor marketplace, where businesses can find skilled trade labor, such as flooring installers, and where flooring installers and other skilled tradespeople can find permanent or project work. You can set up your profile at trelama.com, TRALAMA.com, or download the app from the Apple App Store or Google Play. And remember, Trelama is always free for skilled tradespeople. In-floor heating has never been easier. The new 2020 NWFA guidelines provide electric in-floor heating options that do not require the system to be embedded in cement. The Warm Step system allows for safe installation for glue-down, floating, and nailed-down installation directly over an in-floor heating system. What does that mean for the wood flooring dealer or installer? It means you can now offer your customers a simpler, faster, more cost-effective option for safely installing electric in-floor radiant heat systems with a wood floor. Thermosoft's Warm Step is tested and approved by many flooring adhesive and fastener manufacturers. Visit warmstep.com now to learn how you can heat up your business with the best in-floor heating system for wood floors. Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Hadeen, owner of Illustrious Hardwoods in Phoenix, Arizona. We are here talking to flooring professionals from all across the country about the issues that matter to you. I want to encourage you to learn while you earn. This week's guest is Dave Garden. Dave owns and operates Installation Services, LLC in Detroit, Michigan. Starting out as a lone installer and now running a workroom that does installation for Lowe's, Dave has come a long way. What has made the difference in being able to go from himself to roughly 200 crews? Setting the standard before ever arriving and laying a piece of floor covering. Listen in to learn what the standard is, how we can communicate it, and what your role is in making this industry successful. Dave Garden, are you on the line?
I am.
Awesome. Welcome to the Floor Academy podcast. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule to join us.
I'll trust you. I've been listening to these. The pleasure's all mine.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. Because I don't mean any insults by this. You are an old school guy. You've been around the block a couple of times, and I'm just this. I am a small fish in a big pond. Let me tell you.
Well, I am old. I just look like I'm in my 30s. That's what I tell my wife anyway.
As long as she's believing it, that's what matters, right?
Yeah, she puts up a good front.
I gotta ask. We'll get you to introduce yourself here in a second. What CFI cert number are you?
6269.
6269. Okay, so they'd been around for a minute. You're not too low, but that's still a very low number.
Yeah, I'm not part of the initial wave.
Okay.
Not part of the initial wave. As a matter of fact, I was told by the company that I work for not to go to CFI. CFI came, and it was the third time they came to my city. Time I just said, look, me and my guys are going. But the first two times I was told they wouldn't. I was told over and over again that don't do this. You don't need this. You have a job for the rest of your life right here. Yada, yada, yada. And that company has been out of business for 20 plus years now.
Wow. Good tale. That's what happens when you meet people and build things. But okay, we could go off on a tangent right there. But please introduce yourself, who you are, how you got involved in the flooring industry, and kind of where you've gone. And then we'll move into our main content.
Well, my name is Dave Garden. I'm from the great city of Detroit, Michigan. I got involved with floor covering because I was did not have the high school transcripts that would put me in any college. Oh, wait a second. Yep, that's true.
No big deal.
I had no choices. When I was a kid, it was community college, but I wasn't ready to go to college. Yeah. I needed to learn with my hands.
And there's nothing wrong.
So I got
with
in
that.
a trade.
Yep. Okay.
All right, so that was the late 80s, and I've been doing it ever since. It's really the only job I've ever had, other than washing dishes in a Coney Island, was and bartending a little bit, my younger years, was laying floor covering. That was it. And so the better you got, the better your jobs were, right?
Theoretically.
Yeah. So, well, no, it's true actually. The better you are at what you do, the better your jobs are going to be. I was told that I would never get a raise. So I had to, in floor covering, I had to learn to be more efficient about how I went through my daily business. Which means what? Which means understanding how much seam tape you're using on a job. That's how you're going to make money. Understanding what type of seam tape you need for that job. That's how you're going to make money. Understanding your tack strip, understanding how much tack strip is needed, when to need that tack strip. Not just how to charge for things, but how to use the stuff you have and make the most of it. That's where your money's at.
Job costing.
Yep.
Very
absolutely.
Good stuff. Yeah. Track that stuff.
I used to write down the amount linear feet of seam tape. And I used to write it in a little ledger. And I remember going to the local supply store, getting mad because I thought I got ripped off 5 feet in a roll of seam tape because I didn't add right. but I had the numbers.
Yeah. You guys shorted me. Come on. That's funny.
Absolutely. So anyway, so that's my story. That's how I got into the floor covering trade. It's been good for me. It took me 18 months to go out on my own. And so at the ripe age of 19 years old, I have a truck and tools. I have no clue what I'm doing. No clue. I was a terrible installer, even worse at business or running a business. And I had to learn it all as I went. And I learned it through the mistakes I made. And trust you me, I made a ton of them. I had no clue how to seal a seam as a young carpet installer. I learned how to power stretch right away. Thank goodness the guy that taught me correct. But he never taught me what seam sealer was. We used to take tack strip off the steps. Oh, yeah. And so then after I got off on my own, I started realizing that all these things that I've been taught, other than the power stretching, were incorrect. And not that the guy that trained me was terrible. He was the best guy at our shop.
Oh, man.
I mean, that's just what it was like in the 80s. You know, that's what had happened to the industry. And so moving forward, all these years later, by the time I get involved with CFI, I'd already learned a few things. I mean, heck, I learned how to seal seams from going to I'm going to make somebody else old here. All right. I went to a Roberts seminar on a spray adhesive. And this guy gets up there in front and starts talking about seam sealer. Had no clue what he's talking about, but he made a lot of sense. His name was Michael Hetz. And so I introduced myself to him afterwards, and I needed to know what the seam sealer was. And he took maybe 5-10 minutes, explained it to me. Mm-hmm. And from that day forward, I went out and bought some the next day. Started testing out how to do it on scrap pieces of carpet, which was brutal. And I eventually picked it up. But that's how I learned. Was by going to seminars like that and asking questions. I actually got accused of trying to learn too much about floor covering by other installers.
Oh my goodness!
And well, I wanted to know how it was made.
No, I get it, but it's so backwards.
It is, but you have to understand the state of mind of people. And people that instead of having a career, all these people my peers were there for a job.
Correct.
And there's such a big difference between a career and a job. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that I'm not going to downplay short order cooks or dishwashers or anything like that, but that to me was a job when I did that.
Yeah,
this is a career, So there is a difference. There is a difference. Now, if I'm going to be a short order cook and that was going to be, I would want to be a chef, right? Because then it's a career.
Yes.
And chefs are fantastic. You get a guy that can cook right in a restaurant. Those guys end up making a lot of money. Why? Because they took their craft a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. Well, we're the same way. In floor covering, we're the exact same way. Whether it be a tile setter, or a wood laminate installer, a vinyl guy. Do you know how hard they are to come by, a vinyl guy today?
It's a dying breed.
Oh, you had a couple on the Gonzalez brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys are at a level that, frankly, that nobody even, our industry can't even track those guys with that kind of hand skill.
Yeah.
So it's I got nothing but respect for those guys. Nothing but respect. There's a couple guys that I know that can work at that level, and to me, I mean, yeah, you have at it. You're worth every dime you make.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, thank you. By the way, that's who I am. Thank you for inviting me on.
Well, so how'd you get from? Look, you're running essentially you're running a workroom for Lowe's that is yours now.
Yes.
You started off as no offense, a dumb 19-year-old kid, and you said, I'm running a business and I have no idea how. And so how many installers do you have under you now?
I don't know the exact number. It's just well over 200.
Okay. So you went from by yourself, dumb 19-year-old kid, to roughly 200 installers under you now. How do we get there? Because there's lots of guys that and gals that want to grow their business. They can't find the help. They can't, nobody wants to pay enough. Nobody offers benefits. No, this, that, and the other thing. But you've done it. You've built this thing that, I'm assuming you're trying to get it to kind of run on its own, and you can have less involvement with it, and you get people in place. But you found 200 crews to work for you, and that's a giant amount.
Well, a couple of things here. One is when a door is opened, know when to walk through it, right? Because not every door that's open is the right door.
Mm-hmm.
But know when to walk through that door. Know when to. You have to be the best at what you do.
Okay.
And mind you, I was never the best vinyl installer. I was never the best ceramic installer, or ceramic tile setter. And I'm not going to brag about doing that. But what I did was I learned everything I could about every product and how to install it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I became an expert in that field. Now, note I didn't say anything about wood laminate or carpet. Why? Because I think that I can actually stand with the best of them.
Okay.
But that being said, that doesn't mean that's true. That just means that's what I believe, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's fine.
But having that belief in yourself works too. And mind you, I ended up being the guy. So when my company went out of business, the company I was working for, went out of business right around 1999. I was broke. I mean, I was broke spiritually. I was broke financially.
Okay.
I had no clue what was next. I just bought in a home, thought that I was going to be working at the same place forever. And so I seriously, I had what do you call it? An application, a job application on my desk at home on the counter. I had a job application for the Ford stamping plant, and I couldn't fill it out. I got about halfway done. All I had to do was go in and take a drug test, which for me wasn't an issue. But and I couldn't fill it out. My wife looked at me and she said, "Well, why don't you try doing this on your own?" Right about that time, the phone started to ring. And so as that company went out of business, which is a very large company, went out of business, all these people from that company started opening up their own stores, and that was their first phone call. So I ended up taking a meeting, and I'll drop this guy's name, Bob Trudell, a local flooring legend in Detroit. I took a meeting with him, brought in my rates, and sit around this table with him, and he takes a black Sharpie and starts drawing lines through my rates. So there I am in the back of my head, rolling my eyes, right? Here we go again. Then he starts writing next to him. Takes him about, 4 or 5 minutes. He hands it back to me. he raised every one of my rates by between 30 to 40%.
Wow.
He said, Dave, this is what you're worth. And I said, you going to pay me that? He said, absolutely. And he said, when every one of these other guys calls you, he says, this is the rate sheet you should be using. And so, you know, like anything else, so I was good with my hands, but I had no clue how to run a business.
Mm-hmm.
He helped me. He helped me out tremendously. So that's why I like to say his name, right?
Yep.
The guy that helped me get out from underneath myself as far as being a terrible installer, that guy's name was Tom Herr. Fantastic guy. He was an older installer, ex-Marine. He did everything the right way. I'm telling you, I've learned more from him just sitting in the truck on the way to a job than I did from the guy that trained me. And that's saying a lot, because the guy that trained me, actually, I mean, he was the best guy at the shop. But I learned more from him, and it was just incredible. But you have to have an open mind. So you say, how do you get to where you have 2 installers? You have to have an open mind. You have to be willing to take a risk. You have to be willing to go out of business, which, you know, essentially in 2000, I was out of business. You know, but I took some risks. And the other thing is there's a lot of trust involved with that. So you have 200 crews work for you. Let's just say you have 5 crews working for you, and you're running 5 crews.
Mm-hmm.
You're the boss of 5 crews. What's that mean? Well, I know what it meant when I had 5 crews. I was visiting 5 job sites a day plus doing my own work. And my work consisted of, you know, the hard staircases, the steps in the hall, all the stuff that nobody wanted was the stuff I ended up having to take on. Why? Because I needed those other guys wanting to work for me.
Yeah.
So I had to make sure I was taking care of them. As simple as that. So I'd take on every bogue hard job that I could. And in the meantime, I'd make sure I set everybody else up. So, and you see a lot of that. So, but that's a lot of control, right? So you got control over your 5 crews. You're not making any money, but you got control over those 5 crews.
I hope you have control. I mean, look, you got to have control. I get that, but at the same time, you have to let go of so much control, because you can't be everywhere. You can't be looking over. You know, they might not seal the seam the same way as you, but it still works, and you've got to let it go.
That's not true. It doesn't work. But you have to not look the other way, but you have to be able to trust people. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to trust people, and that was the hardest thing to do. So now we grow to 15 crews. I can no longer do that. You know, I'm doing the entire city of Detroit just about. I got crews running everywhere. There's no way to look that up. Yeah. And at that time, I was still doing a lot of interior decorator work, which meant that I had to be on every woven job because, you know, you have to fight your battles. And one thing I've learned, and this is a great key for people that are just starting and have limited amount of crews, is understand what your crews are capable of. And when I say this, and there are some guys that just don't do patterns very well. There's another guy that maybe doesn't do steps very well. Mm-hmm. Maybe you got a guy that excels at steps, so you might want to pay him a little bit more, right? Because he's fantastic. And you know, so you have to understand what their capabilities are, and then you have to be able to keep to your guns. I had a couple guys come to me 10 years ago, and I liked them. I had to do work in my parents' house. They wanted bigger jobs.
Okay.
Well, I couldn't give them bigger jobs because it would stretch their capabilities. They weren't. Every time I put them on a larger job, it would cost them money. So who's really responsible? If I know they can't handle the job, yet I hand it to them anyway, who's then responsible for their reputation? I am.
Yes.
So I have to make sure. that the crews that we send out to jobs can handle the jobs we give them. Now we're fortunate where we work is Lowe's. Lowe's doesn't get into the woven carpets. That would be a completely different. You know, if a box store did that, it would be completely different.
Yeah.
And they stay out of that stuff for a reason. They can't sell it. Customers aren't going to shop at a box store for woven carpet. They will, though, for a nice piece of muslin. But the woven's a little bit of a different market.
Little bit, little bit. I mean, look, you're talking about ultimate responsibility. Like everything comes back on you, and I think that's the right attitude because obviously it's your company, it's your reputation at the end of the day. But you're also taking responsibility for knowing your crews. You're not just bringing on subcontractors and saying, okay, here, like whatever, you get this job, you get this job, you get this job. You're assigning them what they need, and I'm assuming that you're offering education along the way, and you can mentor people, or you have other people in place, especially at this point because you have 200 crews that can kind of mentor people along the way, help them run their business a little more efficiently, teach them skills that they might be lacking in, and if they're interested and open, then they can work their way up to those bigger jobs. So how does that all kind of play out?
Well, here's the thing. So 2 weeks ago, here in the warehouse I'm in right now, I'm actually in Grand Rapids. We had a not a moisture seminar. I want to say responsibility seminar, which includes moisture, of course, moisture testing, moisture reading, I should say, for installers. So who do we expect to be there? We expect to have the installers there that have questions, right? And we do the same thing for the stores. Earlier today, I was in a store in a Lowe's. Mind you, do I charge them for this? No, I don't charge them for this. It makes me money if people understand things.
Yeah.
But it's just explaining to them what responsibilities are. And they already know this stuff, most of it. But when I start getting into the moisture and exactly why, because anybody can, I can throw a moisture equilibrium chart out for anybody, say, read this goes there, point your finger here, this is what it has to be. But until they start understanding why, that's different. That's different. Now the stores are being able to sell it. The installers are able to confirm it, and everybody's on the same page. But it all has to go together. It's not only training your installers; it's training the salespeople.
Yes.
And yeah, I get it. Salespeople change, installers change. So you keep training, right? You can't stop. The installer that works for us today, next year could be somewhere else. So if I put a CFI education on him, that's all good, right? He's doing it for someone else. Why should I care?
Well, I mean, look, you're trying to better the industry, so
That's right.
I don't think you should care. I think a lot of people would refuse to want to make that investment because they don't get to own the certification and revoke it, and that's sad. Like if you give back, you should get some. A lot of people want to give and get something in return, and you're just giving, and that makes all the difference in the world. It's selfless to let them have it and be educated and grow instead of trying to keep them under your thumb.
It's not as selfless as you might think it is, because here's the thing. So let's say I had the opportunity to have 100 installers in front of me that don't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I can train them all on how to identify floor prep, how to identify, what needs to be go into floor prep, what tools you need to have. Of course, it's the best part about it is I will never make, as an installer, I will never make the amount of money I believe I'm worth, right? Especially if the guy across the town has no idea what he's worth.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say it's selfless, it's not selfless. So if I could teach somebody else how to do something the way that I do it, and they'll all say the same thing. They'll say, "Hey, that's a big investment. I don't know if I can afford to do that." And I sit there and look at them and say, "You can't afford not to do it."
Yeah,
you can't afford not to do it. So at the end of the day, if you're training the guy across the town, if you're training the guy that works at the competitor, you're also raising the standard of the entire industry.
Yes.
So therefore, you'll be able to make what you're worth. That's the reason I got involved with CFI. And how has it helped me out? Well, think about it, man. With 200 crews, if I go into a warehouse, I actually know all the material to talk to the guys about.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do I get their respect? I think I get respect a little bit on a different level because I can do with my hands what they can do with their hands. A lot of guys in my position never touched a knife. And here I could do most things other than heat weld. You don't want me heat welding anything. But
Okay.
back to the Gonzalez brothers.
Yeah. Hey,
But,
look, you gotta pay to play sometimes.
yeah. But you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, totally.
So if I, not that I roll into a warehouse, you don't roll into anything. You have to earn it. You really have to earn it from the installers because we are who we are.
Well, yeah, look, I take pride in what I do, and it's funny that, look, I do click floors. I'm okay with that. I don't have the skills that everybody else has. I'm never going to acquire them. I'm proficient at what I do. But it is kind of insulting, and it gets a good laugh out of me when the clients are like, well, it's just like a giant puzzle. And I'm like, that's the easiest way to explain it. And okay, look, it clicks together like a puzzle. I get their analogy. There's a little bit more than that, but sure, that's the best way to put it. So, yes, you're going to have to, if you're going to talk the talk, you got to walk the walk with them as well. And the fact that you can kind of show up and you can engage and show off that, hey, look, I can do this too, that's going to go a lot further than someone that's just kind of been around and picked up lingo.
Well, it's the easiest way to get a message through to somebody is by working next to them. Mind you, I can't do that with 200 crews. So now I have to hire warehouse managers that can do that.
Yeah.
Site visitors and stuff like that. But I get to those guys. So everything gets layered, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're an installer and somebody visits your job site, you know immediately if he doesn't know what he's talking about. And you want those installers to respect. You want all installers to respect you. And get back to the Lowe's thing. When Lowe's came calling, Lowe's is one of two places I put in an application in my life. I put in one at the same time at Lowe's and Home Depot. The Lowe's story is a great story because I got hired that day, which was really cool. And how did we build our brand with Lowe's? We did our job right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any other way of putting it. So we did our job right, and we went out of our way to make sure our customers were happy. Lowe's was growing at the time, and we just kind of grew with them. So we went from one warehouse to two warehouses, and then to like 6 warehouses. And now we're at like 13.
Jeez.
But yeah, and there's a lot of moving parts with all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you don't get that opportunity if you're not doing your job right. And the other thing that I found, when I first started working for Lowe's, and I'd known a lot of installers that were working for Home Depot, and Home Depot's, they're a good company. I'm not going to, I've never worked for Home Depot, so I wouldn't know. I know they didn't call me back.
Okay. All right.
Lowe's did. But when I went to work for Lowe's, though, I found everybody wanted to complain about pay, but I found they paid just as good, if not better, than anybody else. So then you want to throw it back at those small stores and you say, why aren't you paying more? And we're starting to see that swing now. Now I'm seeing small stores pay, the mom and pop shops are starting to really pay well.
Mm-hmm.
And, for lack of a better way of saying it, at Lowe's, I think that we give a better, we do way better with customer service than a lot of these smaller stores do. And the reason is because there's a lot of, you want that customer back in to buy light bulbs or buy paint or buy whatever. So Lowe's isn't going to let them slip. So they do a better job customer service wise. I feel that way. At least I've experienced that.
Okay. Well, I think that's really what it comes down to, right? Is if you want to have a successful business, you've got to be providing, not only do you have to get the installation right so it lasts, but at the end of the day, it's about the customer service you provide along the way. You can, it doesn't matter if you can install it. Well, okay, it matters that you install it properly, but if you're a jerk and you install it properly, you're not going to get the referral. You're not going to get the call back. You're not going to get anything. So what is it that needs to be built into the customer service that really makes you stand out and separates you from the pack and the average person?
Well, I used to say it was my charming good looks and smile, but as it turns out, it's just making sure that the customer's happy along the way.
But where's the buck stop with that, though? You know, is that like changing a light bulb for them? Is that making sure the squeaky door isn't squeaky? Is it just focusing on the carpet you're putting in, or the LVP you're putting in?
Things.
Like, what is it?
No, it's the whole thing. Here's the thing. So your job is not to change a light bulb in the customer's house or to fix a squeaky door, right? That's not your job. Your job as an installer, no matter what you do, or a tradesman, is to set a standard of what to expect right up front, and then live up to that standard. So often, what we have is, and I was as guilty as this as anybody else. I will go walk into a customer's house and say, "Don't worry, I'm the greatest ever. You'll never see a seam." Then I'll open up my carpet and I'll see some sort of pattern on there. It's a half inch or whatever. It's some sort of mess, and it's got different color dyes going through it.
Mm-hmm.
And you look, and here I'd already committed myself to make sure the customer knew that I was the greatest ever. Nobody would ever see a seam. And then when the customer sees a seam, what do? We get mad at the salesperson. How come you said that the seam would be invisible? I said, no, I didn't say that. You said that. Yeah. The installer. So what we do is we set expectations that we can't deliver. And that goes all along the way. Or we'll show up to a customer's house and we'll be surprised about something inside the customer's house. And then the customer will say, if you would have called me, I'd have told you we had a pool table. Mm-hmm. I didn't think about that. And it's not the salesman's fault. It's written right on the paperwork that the pool table is supposed to be moved. Right?
Yeah.
So now I get out there. So I'm already working uphill. And that's a bad spot to be in when you're installing. But to answer your question, if a light bulb goes out in a room that I'm in, I would probably change it. Why? Because I need that light in order to work.
Mm-hmm.
The simple things like that do go a long way. Something else that I found, you get into a customer's house, and I don't understand it. I don't understand it. And I got this with crews all over our fine state here. Why anybody would want to use a customer's bathroom? Get it. But, I don't get it. So I get that you may have to go. I get that there's always some place to do that. But you don't ever want to make the customer feel uncomfortable in their own house. And so that's the difference. That's service. That's service. And I know some people think that might be wrong. They should be able, I get it. I get it. But you really want to make sure the customer knows that they're in control of their environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's about it. But at the same time, you need to set a standard of what you can and can't do. And if you're good at setting that standard up front, then you've got to win it. Some people are better at that than others.
You've got me thinking. I'm sorry. This happens a lot on this podcast where, I just kind of like, and I start going to my own little world about what I'm learning. Setting a standard up front. That's something I don't think a lot of companies are doing. And so I can see how you were able to stand out, and not to, put a pun on it, but it's, if you have goals and expectations and you're able to clearly communicate those to everybody, that this is how we're going to do it, this is the vision, this is how you accomplish it, it goes a long way. And that goes in multiple business books that I've read, and it's not, you're demonstrating that through the growth of your business.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Notice we haven't laid a stitch of carpet yet. Put down a stick of floor yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yet we've already got that customer where that customer wants to be, not where we need the customer, where they want to be. And that's the important thing. And the other thing about customer service, people never get. I hear over and over and over again from people, from installers. I'm great at customer service. I do this, I do that. I will do this for them. I will do that for them. Doesn't make a difference. I'll wear a blue shirt every day. I'll wear a green shirt every day. That's good customer service. Well, it is good to look neat. But however, nobody forgets to ask what the customer wants.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest problem that we have in our industry is that customers, by the time they get taken care of, things get blown out of proportion. And they get blown out of proportion because nobody takes care of them right away. And so you'll sit there on something for 3 weeks. By the time you get around to it, the customer's got a whole laundry list of things that he thinks are wrong. A little bit more difficult to take care of them then.
Yes.
Now, and the thing about it is, a young installer, we've already established I was not good. I would say between the ages of 19 and say 24, maybe 23, I was just trying to make a living. I wasn't trying to get any better. I didn't understand what things were going on. I didn't understand why a seam on this side of the fireplace would be invisible. The seam on the other side of the fireplace looked like the Grand Canyon. I didn't get any of that. Mm-hmm. Right. But one thing I got was how to smile at a customer, smile to a customer, shake your hands when appropriate, do those little things.
Yeah.
And the other thing, man, just thank them and just thank that customer. I got that right away. And it's probably the way that my dad brought me up. I was fortunate there. But that's important. It's important because that sets a standard with the customer. Hey, you know what? We got 6 out of 10 here on the carpet install, but we really like that kid. Mm-hmm. So I was able to win that way.
Well, it goes a long way, I think. You're acknowledging that they chose you by thanking them. They had a lot of options.
Absolutely.
And you're acknowledging that you're grateful for the opportunity. That look, I mean, I hate to admit it, but I feel that I could be doing this for 20 or 30 years and on the floor. Hopefully I'm not, but I'd be okay with it, I guess. That even after that point, like, they're technically still paying me to learn. Like, they're paying me to acquire more skills on their floor. And if I'm not thankful for that opportunity, there's something wrong with me.
Well, you're correct in a lot of ways, but I could also tell you stories about the first accident store I took out. Trust you me, I should have been paying that.
I'm not saying that there's not those opportunities, but like I said, I'm thankful I'm getting paid to learn.
Yeah. It's I almost retired that day, but 30 yards at $2 a yard, taking 10 hours as a 22-year-old kid. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, you learned. Yep. I learned.
Oh, man. So what else? You got, you have built a extravagant training center. I don't know that it's extravagant. It's probably like bare bones, but, you test your installers before you hire them, and you essentially built like a 3-bedroom kind of mock-up in one of your warehouses. Did you not?
I did. You got it a little wrong. It's
okay.
Kind of out of context a little bit, though. I used to back in the first decade of our century here. Back in I had an 8x8 and a set of upholstered stairs in the warehouse. And when I say 8x8, I mean just a little 8x8 stretching room that me and my little brother built.
Okay.
And I would ask guys when they came in, because we had a lot of installers looking for work in our city, and we were really down economically. Detroit was. And so I'd ask him to stretch in a room, and I'd ask him to put on a step. And you'd be shocked at the guys that would come in, they'd talk such bravado. And as soon as they looked at that upholstered step, would have a lot of French coming out of their mouth. No, I don't do those. I don't power stretch. The oldest story in the book with some of these guys. The power stretcher will rip the carpet, so I don't use that. Show me.
Yeah.
Show me how you're going to rip that carpet with that power stretcher, because there's a better shot you're going to rip it on a hot day with your knee than you are that power stretcher. Of course, once you learn how to use a power stretcher correctly. And so I used to do that, but then as it evolved, and this is my involvement with CFI. It's been my dream. CFI is doing this. They have a training center in Forney.
Yes.
I wanted that. I wanted that, and I wanted that so bad, but I couldn't get anybody to invest with me. So I'm trying to get other installation companies, going around to the other workrooms in the area. None of them would go with me on this stuff. So you know what I did? I built it myself.
There you go.
I built it myself. I built a 3-bedroom house in the back of my warehouse. We put an ad on. We put ads out to see who was interested. We ended up with students. So the first class we didn't charge because I knew I had to. I had to learn how to teach, and we had the material. Everything's written, but this is different than doing a weekend training. We have to show people how to hold a knife.
Yeah.
So it's the weekend trainings are seasoned installers, and it was. I can't even begin to tell you how rewarding it was. Like the guy, and I couldn't have done it without a guy that works for me, Glenn. And Glenn is a master certified carpet installer, number 80, which he will tell you is better than 6269. So untrue. Anyway.
Well, you guys got to enter. You guys got to enter the competition at Surfaces and see who comes out on top. Okay.
Yeah. He doesn't want any of that. But actually, I don't know if I do at my advanced age of 30-something. Yeah, those guys. Glenn's a fantastic installer who understood how to teach people. Mm-hmm. So without having that, I couldn't have done this. So between the two of us, and our styles are a little bit different. Of course, but we were able to give a real good education to some, and we learned a ton while we did it. So what did we do? We did it again. We did it again. Mm-hmm. Now that was last year. So we had 2 classes last year, and they ended up being 6-week classes because we ended up teaching laminate and hardwood.
Okay.
And that went real well. I was about to get it into a local school district here. But you know what hit?
Yeah.
So we had to back all our plans up a year. But the plan is, though, to get it into the high schools, right?
Excellent.
And how do you get it into the high schools? They're all looking, and now is the time to do this. They're looking. So at CFI, that's got to be a goal. That's got to be a goal, and who better to facilitate it than me? And I say that meaning everybody should be saying that. It's mm-hmm. not that I'm any different or any more special than anybody else, right? But a CFI used to have a logo. I don't know if you remember, if you ever met Jim or Jane Walker.
Briefly at Surfaces last year, yeah, or this past January.
All right. Well, Jane, she used to get us up there, and Jane was awesome. She would. If it's to be, it's up to me. That was our slogan. And so when it comes to the stuff like the schooling, building a school in the back, I have the means, right? So I should be the one to do it. Mm-hmm. Right? Somebody else may have the means to do something else, so they should do that. But I get it. But the point is if you're actually in control, and I say this to the other guys that have workrooms, much the same I do, and I get it. Maybe I got a little bit more invested, being I was an installer for a lot of years, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if companies like mine don't start giving back, it's not by giving back, I mean, just by creating a future, and we have to create that future. And you hear all the stories about installers, about the lack of people getting involved with the trades.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you want to stand around and complain about it, or you want to do something about it?
Yes.
So I get involved with these like group chats and all this stuff with these different people, and they want to spend the first hour complaining about the state of the trade. And nobody wants to do anything about it, though. So
yeah,
I just figured I would. That's where it costs a fortune. Don't ask what it costs. I don't want to get my wife on the line.
Look, it costs a fortune, but what are you doing? Because you're providing a better way for people. And if you're giving back and people are able to get something out of it and the industry is able to survive, that investment's going to come back to you tenfold. That's been my biggest thing, is that I notice everybody continuing to talk. There's a shortage. There's a shortage. There's a shortage. Great. I got it. You can look at articles that are 30 years old, supposedly, that talk about there being a shortage. Everyone's talking about it for 30 years. What are you doing to change it? And so thank you for stepping up and doing something to try and change it. Well, you've got to, there needs to be some action instead of just complaining. But that goes back to why guys can't ever get out of this thing of nobody wants to pay. Nobody wants to pay. It's because they're all sitting in the back of the workroom when they're getting jobs assigned, complaining about how much they get paid instead of figuring out how to get to the next level, which is one of the reasons why this podcast even exists. I went looking for the information and it didn't exist.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool, by the way.
Thank you. And it's so, look, I have a background from when I did reality television. I know how the audio equipment works. Here I am. I'm going to put this stuff together, and I'm going to get the information for me. I might as well share it with other people. That would just be stupid not to, because it's going to help the industry. And if everybody can come up, then we're in a much better position.
Well, let me ask you something. And I hate to turn around.
No, please feel free.
You install flooring.
Correct.
It's a yes question. I already know you do. You install flooring. Do you love what you do?
I do. It makes me happy to see homes transformed and people walk in with a smile on their face. That's what gets me excited. What I've really realized is that I actually love the building of things. And so whether I'm going to be building a floor or build my business, that's what gets me excited, is I want to build something.
Well, let me tell you something, Kyle. If you don't do your job right, you will never love what you do. I absolutely love laying carpet, man. When I was doing all the woven stuff and the Axminster, I could take a piece of face-to-face Wilton carpet and I could double upholster a set of steps with it. How many guys have that skill? And that would just, it would just get me pumped. However, it destroyed my fingers. But to be able to do something like that correctly, that sets you apart, right?
Yes. That's an interesting, yeah.
So if you're just working track homes, new construction homes, you see somebody's moving into that house that you did 2 weeks ago because you're all working the same stuff. And you know that the flooring you put down is going to be providing for them. That sets you apart, man. Love what you do. If you love what you do, man, it'll come out every day. It'll show up in every one of your jobs. So
that's deep.
Yeah. So if I ever had any advice for a young installer, find a niche in this trade that makes you want to come to work every day. Love what you do. And if you can't find that, you might be in the wrong trade. I get it. The money's attractive. That's what got me right away.
Mm-hmm.
As at the end of the week, I got a nice big check. Right, my friends were all in college; they didn't have that money. Unfortunately, I spent all my money on them.
Yeah.
But but point being is if I didn't love it, and if I wasn't attracted to it, I wouldn't still be doing it. And I have my best days, and on this earth are working floor covering. No, I can't say that. I got a wife and kids. But I'll say playing baseball with my kids is probably the best. But other than that, though, when it comes to my professional life, I love laying floor covering. I just did the family room in my house, and my wife was trying to take pictures. And I said, "What are you doing?" She goes, "Well, wouldn't you like to videotape all your work?" At this age, no.
I don't do it as fast anymore. Stop.
When I was in my 20s and I looked real good in a nice tight fitted shirt, yeah, I like to get pictures then. Now I look like a bowling pin, but so maybe less pictures. But I really love what I did, and I love the fact. I didn't love the fact that the pattern was off. But when I was done with that and I had it all stretched in and that thing was straight going side to side, I most certainly like to talk about it to everybody that came over my house.
Well, okay. So let me ask you this then, because you have interviewed tons of installers at this point, and they've come and they've gone and they've done so many things. So can you instill that passion into somebody, or do they have it innately because they already love what they do, or can you make them love what they do?
Oh, you can make them love what they do. I believe you can. If you treat a person right and they see it in you, it should rub off on them. Right? It's kind of like a ministry of presence. Not to draw it up church term, but
no, I get it.
A ministry of presence means you're accountable for what you're doing. You hold yourself accountable to make sure that they're right. If they see you, and here's the thing that I don't like around the shop. I don't like the swearing. I don't like the down talk. I don't like any of that. The reason is because I want that guy going out to the job site happy. So how do I make an installer love what he does? By making sure his floor plan's right. Right? By making sure he's got enough material. By taking all the BS off his plate that causes him to fail. That's how you help an installer love what he does. Because most of the guys love working on their hands and knees. They love the floors, they love the carpet, they love banging down the hardwood. What they don't like doing is showing up to a job site and seeing half the transitions there. That's what they don't like doing, right?
Correct.
So how do I help an installer love what he does? By making his day correct to start. And that's a mission as a company that I wish we perfected, but we're trying to. Because at the end of the day, he's your superstar. That installer is going to make or break you. So, and granted, some guys are inherently happier than others. I get it. All right. I get it. But maybe some guys are in the wrong system. Maybe some of the guys don't belong at the shop. I get it. But you can create a culture where people like their jobs, or you can create a culture where everybody gets beat down on. And something else I don't like doing with installers, I will never dress an installer down in front of another installer. And I never saw the point in it. So if I'm yelling at you in front of these other three installers, what kind of message am I sending?
Yeah.
I'm sending a message that I'm kind of a jerk probably, but I'm also embarrassing the guy that I want to go out to Mrs. Smith's house and give me a great install. So I'm dressing him down in front of these other installers, and then I think he's going to love his job when he gets there. It could happen. Chances are less, though.
Yes.
So I think how we treat each other goes a long way, and that goes from the shop right on down. So yeah, I think we can create a culture where people like their jobs.
Okay. No, I love it. It goes into, you're setting the standard before you even arrive. Once again, we can go all the way back. And so you've set this standard of this is how we act. This is how we set the tone. This is how we do everything before we even get there. And then you will innately do a better job once you get there and you start going.
Yeah, absolutely. Because he's going to like his job more. The other thing, and this goes two ways, right? If you have an installer that is complaining on the job site, that is so unhealthy for everybody. It truly is. So how do you stop stuff like that, right? You got to talk to your guys. But most of the time they're complaining about something. We need to find out what it is they're complaining about and try to fix it, if it's fixable. The other thing is these services that we send installers out to. If an installer, and not everybody's perfect every day. So if an installer does something that you have an installer struggling, go out with them to the job site. Show them that you've got as much invested into that job as they do. All right, so maybe you don't love what you do that day because you're taking all the bullets from Mrs. Smith so he can get his job done, right? But that goes a long way with your installer. They know that. So it helps improve his attitude. I think, and especially in today's society, because in today's society, we even have it worse. We have a lot of installers that English isn't their first language.
Yeah.
Does that mean that they're any less of an installer or they care less? Absolutely not. But you have customers out there for whatever reasons, love them on day one. Then when they start trying to communicate with them, they don't like them anymore because they don't speak English as their first language.
But he could be the most talented installer you have.
It doesn't make a difference if he's talented or not. He's still there to do his best job for them.
Yeah.
Right. And you're there, and just by going out to that job site, just showing him that you've got an investment into him, that means a lot. That means a lot because those guys, like I said, those guys are your superstars.
Well, and I'm wondering if that's it. You understand that because you were there, and they are the face of your company to the public now. So I think you get a little bit of a different take because you were the installer. I don't know that some of these shop owners that have come into it from a sales background or, their third generation and took over the store, something like that, necessarily get to go and do that. And I think that is a huge step for you to realize, like, hey, I can go have a better, deeper relationship with these guys or gals out in the field for me if I can go and assist them. But it's because you've been through it. But that's also
Absolutely.
where, we got, I think it will have already have come out, but I can kind of backdate this. I think next Thursday, WFCA is doing their conference with this is what installers want from shops, and then they're going to do one where this is what shops want from installers. And I think that conversation really needs to go two ways. And there's too much of, well, you're just the installation crew, so you go do the installs, and we're the sales crew, so we're just going to do the sales. And if you don't have that open communication, it's not going to work.
Yeah, no, you're right. They've asked me to be on that call.
So you're a lucky guy. How do I get on that call? I got some things to say.
Well, in actuality, I'm on that call representing installers because I've probably spoken quite a bit about this sort of thing. And yeah, there is a list of things that we like to talk about. Sure, what we expect, but we also should understand what our responsibilities are. If I'm going to expect gold from you, I better be worth that gold that I expect. Simple as that. It's simple as that, and we know that. Because, I could drive business away or I could bring it back. Right?
Yeah.
As an installer.
Yeah.
We have that choice every day. And heck, as human beings, we have that choice. Are people happy to be around you or are they not happy to be around you? One or the other. right? And I tell my kids that we affect the world no matter what. We're either a positive influence or a negative influence, and we get to decide what we want to be. So it's the same thing. So if I'm an installer, I'm going to want certain things from my boss. From my boss, I say, if I'm a contractor, it's not really my boss, but
Yeah.
but I'm expecting certain things from my shop that I'm going into every day. Well, they're going to expect certain things from me, and I have to be willing to deliver. I think that's where we fall short as installers. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to start getting on a soapbox about self-responsibility.
Well, look, I don't think that responsibility is always clearly communicated. I think there's one of the issues. Is that something I've actually been working on with somebody else that's kind of mentoring me along the way, is that we're establishing this is the system, this is what's followed, this is how you do it. And it's not just for the installation side, it's going to be for the sales side and for the bidding side and for the operations of how a warehouse would be run. Like, you're going to set this up and everyone will have a clear picture. But just because you have like a vision statement or a mission statement and all that fun stuff for your company doesn't mean that the guy at the bottom of the totem pole knows what that is and how it works. If you're not clearly communicating that and getting everybody on the same page so that they can clearly state this is what we stand for, you've already failed, because now you have 15, 20, 200 people all doing what they think is best, and that's not going to work.
Well, the funny thing is that's where we struggled with as we grew.
Go figure.
Think about it. Oh yeah, no. What we struggled with, so now we're hiring people to do what I needed, what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
So as I hire people to do what I'm doing, they need to be the representation of what I want them to be. And we struggle with that because they had their own, people have their own ideas on how to manage. And so, you'll hear from an installer in the next state complaining about getting yelled at in front of other installers. And, so as the owner of the company, what do? I get in my truck and I drive to Fort Wayne, right, to find out what's going on, because that installer is important to me. And I need to find out exactly what's going on. I like to have that conversation face to face. Because why is he getting yelled at? And the thing about it is, this is just a basic human decency. Never dress somebody down in front of other people. It's just not. That's just not cool.
Yeah.
You can have a private conversation, and then this conversation where nobody needs to yell. It's simple as that. But most of the time, you're right. Installers will get upset because nobody's communicated with them something they need. Now, I get it. If your truck breaks down every Thursday for 8 weeks, which happens to be the day after you bowl,
yeah,
correct. Patterns arise.
Yes, right? Correct.
Patterns arise. But if I'm doing my job, I scale your work back on that Thursday and make you ask why.
Yes.
Why is my work being scaled back? Well, I don't know. The last 2 Thursdays you didn't show up.
Yep.
I love you and I want to keep you as a friend. So here's how we're going to do this. We'll see you in May.
Yeah. There's a lot going on for sure. Oh man. All right. Thank you very much, Dave. We have come to our end, sadly. I mean, I know I could sit here and do this all day, so I'm sure I will come up with something else to call you up about and say, hey, can I have another hour of your time? And sadly, I've taken up 2.5 hours of your time because we've had a couple of contations. So.
Yeah, they always go differently, don't they?
Yes, they do. That's the fun.
That's the way it's supposed to be, though. At the next convention we're allowed to go to, which maybe in 2025.
No way.
I'll buy you a drink.
I'm actually trying to get something together here in January. So if people are gonna, look, Surface has moved. I'm gonna capitalize on their mistake. So January is a great time because installers are usually slow, and I'm all about it. And I'm gonna offer we're going to do business stuff. And how many of these conferences can you go to where you get like business education? Not a lot. Surfaces has a little bit, but people go more to like see the vendors and stuff. So I want to be the all business guy. Maybe we get into like some high end installation techniques. I haven't really worked it out. I'm trying to figure out some pricing and whatnot, and we'll see where it goes. But
well, let me tell you something. Just a bit of personal selfishness.
Okay.
If you do a convention in January, I'm just going to throw out South Florida, Southern California. No,
I'm in Phoenix.
South Florida.
I'm in Phoenix. Everyone's coming to Phoenix.
Yeah, there's a lot of beach, no water. But
I don't need no water, man. Look, we have business to do. Okay, business, no fun.
There you go.
Business.
There you go. But
it's warm though. It's warm. That's what matters.
Yes, and that does. It counts for so much, man. Because when we travel at that time of year, and it's nuts. For CFI, I used to do this. I used to get upset. Not upset. I used to give them a hard time. In January, I'd be in Pittsburgh. Robert Vard would be in Hawaii.
Oh, yeah.
Who was more important?
Well,
you can tell him I said that.
I don't know if he listens. I got to get on him to see if I can get him to listen.
But, we'll talk to you later, Kyle. Thank you for your time.
Hey, if somebody wants to reach out to you and ask you a question, any way that they can get a hold of you?
Yes, call me. Or email me.
Okay.
But if you want my cell phone, I give this out to every one of my classes that we teach at CFI.
Look, if you're willing to put it out there on the air, I'm happy to. It'll stay there. If you don't want it out there and forever on the internet, don't do it.
Yeah, I'm sitting here contemplating this over my head. What kind of phone calls am I going to get?
I don't know how many people are listening to this show that aren't flooring installers. I'll tell you that.
Well, if I get another call from this Sven guy in Europe. Because they're opposite times. And it always comes at 3 a.m. My wife's starting to get upset.
Oh, man.
But, yeah, all right. You ready?
Yep. Go ahead.
586-344-4336.
Awesome.
Right.
Thank you. That's huge. Guys, gals, look, huge resource. Been there, done that. Probably made some mistakes, can save you a lot of time. If you reach out to Dave, I bet you get something out of it. It's a great conversation. No lie.
The way to say it, Kyle, is there isn't a mistake they can't make that I haven't already made. All right.
Awesome.
With that, I'll leave you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye. That's all the time we have for this week. To keep the conversation going, head on over to the Floor Academy Facebook group. Be sure to subscribe so you can hear each and every episode. We can be found on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and most major podcast directories. Don't forget to leave a review and let us know what you think about the show. If you would like to be a guest, have questions or feedback, you can email us at flooracademypodcast@gmail.com. You can help support the show by becoming a patron over at www.patreon.com/flooracademy. Remember to learn while you earn.